Three, two, one. Welcome, gents. Obviously, I'm not John, but this is the Add Oil podcast, and I'll
And
be
I'm not
taking
Noah.
over today. No, well, you're just as beautiful, but just not quite. You know, we'll get there in time. We have officially taken over. We've infiltrated. This is ours now, and we'll be hosting today. So hopefully, we'll do it fair justice. And I think I'll start with my name's Wylo. I guess my vocation would be sports science, but I have a background in sales and cable engineering. And I think another piece of context is quite important is I've known the lovely gentleman you see before you for about, I guess, let's just cut it short and say minimum of 15 years plus. So, you know, if you hear me interacting with them in a certain way, that's just a little bit of background for that. Do you want to take it away? Man with the beautiful hairline? Not the other. Well, they both have beautiful hairlines, but
Yeah, as I said before, I'm not Noda. I'm Alex. I am a living, normal human being.
Hmm.
Don't really have any sort of specialist as that handsome man that was
mate,
just speaking.
mate, you make me blush now.
But yeah, I'll just kind of, I guess, give the average perspective on it. No real affiliations of any kind. But yeah, hopefully it should be fun. What are you eating there, Jack?
No mic. Oh, I was about to say.
What's it called?
Dramatic pause.
My iced coffee cake, walnut coffee cake from Tesco's.
Ooh.
Fair enough.
I think it's becoming a meme between in this podcast that I just have random things putting in my mouth as people are like talking. Yeah, like before I was eating nuts and then banana chips and then now I'm eating my breakfast because it
I'll be
is
sure
10 o'clock
to-
now.
Yeah,
10 o'clock.
It is.
it is breakfast time.
Yeah, that's
I'll be
breakfast
sure
time.
to just shoot questions your way while you're mid-bite.
Yeah, mate,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, what are your thoughts on
Actually,
this?
I'm finished now. I'm finished now. So, introductions. Hi, it's me again. It's wait, I forget what they call me.
Eric, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Eric.
Oh yeah, we should probably mention we might call you Jack and
No,
Jerickson.
it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. That's okay. I think they know that. There'll probably a different episode on why Jack has and Eric has so many names. But yeah, it's Eric again. Hi. I am joined by these two gorgeous gentlemen.
I like all the words of affirmation. I was trying to make everyone feel uncomfortable, but it's actually just turned out really wholesome. So I really like that. I actually kind of don't want it to stop
That's
now.
it.
Sweet cake.
Oh, you sweet, sweet summer child. Thank you, guys.
So what's in store for us, for our listeners?
Well, we have a bunch of topics, but I thought just now that given we have been friends and known each other for so long, maybe we could talk about friendship dynamics.
Okay.
And so my first question would be, what are your gents' thoughts on, let's say you have a friend that has maybe been, you know, a little bit astray, and you're trying to guide them on the right path. Stop smiling at me. You're trying to guide them on the right path. And I don't know, is there a place for friends to subtly kind of nudge one another in a rough direction? Is there a place for that in a friendship group? Is that something that can only be attempted over a long period of time?
When you mean nudge, like influence people?
Yeah, I'd say let's
Influence your friends to the right way, to the right path?
what you think is like appropriate, and then if you was, how would you go about that? Because I think a big part of friendship groups when they start to develop or become a little bit more close is navigating the minefield of, okay, where do I say what you're doing here is a bit messed up, or is there ever a time, or do you just support them?
I think there's definitely a time. I think like there's obviously times where, you know, if they do something minor, you're like, oh yeah, nah, it's not that bad type thing, you know. But then if you feel like it's quite a major thing they're doing, I think it's almost like you can't just idly sit by and let it continue. So I think it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
better to at least talk to them about it. Maybe not so aggressively at the start because then they get really defensive, but you
Yeah,
can
I think
kind of
that's
like
good.
maybe explain it to them in a different way to see if they can kind of bring themselves to understand what they're doing. And then maybe realize themselves. That would be the best way rather than just everyone telling them, no, it's wrong. If they don't understand it's wrong,
Yeah.
nothing's going to change. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like, start small so that it doesn't look like you're backseat living their lives for them. To coin the term that we
Yeah.
like to use when we're playing games. But I think it depends on how long of a friendship you've had with them. Like if I've just met them, and I don't know whether they're a work colleague that I'm closest to the most, or like, I've only met them for a month or 6 months, I probably wouldn't be. It sounds really sad to say, but I probably won't be as invested in it
Yeah. I think that's
because
fair enough to say.
I haven't made that much of a. I mean, I'm just saying maybe. I'm not saying that you can't have like a deep connection with a friend in 6 months or a year, but depending on what your friendship level is at the moment, which it's like a nebulous term, friendship level, because I don't think anyone will be able to like define what that is. But depending on how comfortable you are as a friend with each other, yeah, you just kind of start small and increase, because maybe part of being a friend is that you guide each other. It's not just for funsies. Let's either get drunk or play until our eyes bleed. I think there's a little bit more to. I'm guessing this meaning of the kind of friendship where you're able to influence each other's life.
Yeah.
Beyond what you're normally friends for, like.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think you're definitely
Yeah.
touching on the idea of like that deep entrenched level of trust in that. So if
Yeah.
you are gonna allow someone to or take on someone's advice or let them say how they're thinking about a certain situation, that comes with a level of not just vulnerability but of course trust as well, which I think is important. I would say I've noticed that we do when we're tentatively like touching ground with that. Have you noticed that? I don't know if it's a guy thing or if it's just us, but people start with jokes. So it's like a soft. It's like a soft, you know. And then inside it, there's like a little sprinkle of of this is quite clapped. And I don't like. Have you? Because I haven't seen much interaction with like other big social groups. Do you think that's maybe like a general thing, using like humor as that type of let's say soft approach? Or do you think maybe that's just something we've
I think
done?
I can't speak for anybody else's friendship, but definitely for our friendship, that's pretty much our method of communication. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely
It's all
convinced.
through memes and just sort it
It's
out.
like
I'm
someone
not
kills
entirely
someone. It's
sure
like,
that's
oh,
healthy,
no.
or we've grown so accustomed to it that we've basically standardized and normalized this level of behavior, and I think we're quite comfortable at it, that it's coming from a place of love,
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
than some people looking in will probably think, oh my goodness, these people are toxic
They are
AF.
horrible.
Yeah, like,
We'll
oh,
be
remember
friends with
last year
them.
when you. Yeah, sorry.
Go on.
I was gonna say, like, oh, remember last year when you killed that person? Yeah, that was kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, well, he didn't like coffee cake, so he deserved it.
In terms of, so we spoke a little bit then in terms of like pacing or the relative like friendship, the pace of a friendship. I guess to segue into a different topic in terms of like relationships. Anecdotally, I'm in a new relationship, and
Ooh.
I'm also really really fortunate in that, and of course very happy. But of course, whenever you start something new, whether it's a new friendship, a new relationship, you're trying to kind of gauge what's a correct pace. Is there a correct pace? How do you guys feel about like things like that? Or,
Um, hmm. I don't think there's any one blanket correct pace for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's probably like a general pace that, you know, so and so success rate if everyone followed it. But again, that's probably only for the middle ground people. But the outliers, the extreme ends, they probably some people can move a lot faster than others. There's definitely a thing that's too fast, even if you know they're probably getting on really well, but they're getting married after like a month. That's like, hold up, wait a minute.
Oh my lord.
But
But have
yeah,
I
but
met
then
anybody who's been in a relationship and thrown in a deep end for a month? That is quite unusual, right?
yeah, that's
hmm,
a month. What, married in a month? I guess actually.
Yeah.
So I
it's
was
definitely on
I
the extreme end.
so I was working. I
Yeah.
was working in Sheffield on a construction site, and I was talking to a guy, and he was from Dubai, and he was talking about arranged marriages, and he's 25, and he was saying
Mm.
how his family had arranged um, his marriage, and he's now got a fiance, and they just decided you're 25 now, it's marriage time.
Marriage time.
It's marriage time.
Huh.
And but when he what I found fascinating was when he was remarking upon it, he was always talking in it and about it in like a super good way. He was like, "Oh, when you like," he even said to me, "He was like, how old are you?" And then obviously we had a bit of a back and forth joking about, and then he was like, "Yeah, so you're married, right?" I was like, "No."
Mm.
And for him, it was like, strange. He was like, "You're older. You should be
Well,
locking it down."
I mean, I guess it's
Had
just
they
different
met?
on a
Had they
different
already been
culture.
married?
They haven't already been married. This is
Right.
their first one. Just to answer your question,
Hmm.
Oh.
both of them.
Um. Hmm.
That's throwing us all off.
Yeah.
It's like,
Sorry, just pulled
it's
that out
just
there.
like a different, it's just like a different culture type thing, isn't it? It's like some people you hear a lot saying that, oh, the culture there is different, so you can't judge what they do and all that stuff. But I mean, it kind of gets to a point where you can kind of, like, I don't know, this is quite an extreme one, but like, say for example, it's normal culture for like, I don't know, a 14-year-old to get married to a 30-year-old or something. Like, yeah, on the one hand, you got people going, oh, the culture's different there, blah, blah, blah. But then on the other hand, you're like, that's a bit too much,
Mm,
you know?
mm,
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't. I, I think I might have read anecdotes or might have seen things on TV where it where underage marriage is part of their culture, but I haven't actually come across one myself, like
mm.
personally. Um, but
I'd be super curious as to like
mm,
what are the success rates of like because I know they always do marriage statistics as a holistic, but like
yeah,
Hmm.
specifically
for arranged
those,
marriage.
yeah, for arranged marriages, I mean, I have no idea. I'm like, are they statistically successful? Not that that's probably the way you should measure a relationship, but like
Well, well,
normatively.
in the Philippines, there isn't really a arranged marriage culture as large as some other cultures, some other Asian cultures. But
Hmm.
those that do end up marrying in the Philippines through arranged marriages aren't really divorce, because there isn't a divorce in the Philippines.
Mm.
You can like separate,
Mm.
but that won't be captured in the statistics.
Yeah.
Like unless people start asking like families, are you like together or are you separated?
I
But are you
know
still married?
that on my father's side, all of my granddad's, all of my cousins and my uncles, I guess
Yeah.
great uncles, they're all in arranged marriages.
Oh.
And so my granddad had to leave. To separate from that and be able to make his own choice, he had to leave.
Yeah.
Which is quite
Yeah.
interesting. So like there's also the element of it. There's just not the option, number one, and then number two, there's also the social element of if you do break up, your own family basically just go, or if you want to make your own choice, your own family in a sense disowns you,
Yeah. No, I can see that happening.
which is
But
rough.
like going back to your question on how fast is fast, I mean, it really depends on what stage of life you're in right now. Like, I mean, we're all relatively young people. Like, I'm in my mid-30s. Alex, are you still in your late 20s? You're in late 20s, aren't you?
Sadly, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and Willow, you're about the same age.
I'm old.
So
I'm old.
I would
Late 20s.
say, like, if you were, I mean, it's quite common. We see this on TV a lot. Like, for young people, like teenagers, puppy love, they go right in there.
Oh yeah.
They drive fast and what's it? They live fast, die young type of relationship. So
Oh, what's the phrase for that in Latin?
huh? Oh, I don't know. I'm really bad.
It's like a tattoo people get in Latin.
Carpe
It
Carpe
means live
Diem or some
fast, die young.
shit.
I think so,
Seize
yeah.
the day, isn't it?
Seize the
Yeah,
day.
yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Caesar Day.
Oh fuck off.
So you
I
get
hate
these
that. But
young people who are like stricken with love, who I don't know, they saw each other's ankles, because it was back in the Orient times, and they go, "Oh my God, they're so cute." And then, would you like to be my boyfriend? And then they go, "Oh yeah, let's go and marry." That's on one hand. I mean, that's stereotyping like really young people, but that's really bad. But then, I mean, that happens to like people of my age too. But generally, I think as you get older, especially for people who are a lot more confident about themselves, like as a person, more confident and more self-aware, those type of people tend to not jump into relationships ASAP.
yeah.
Because I think there's a huge dose of skepticism. You know, people have their own busy professional lives that they're still trying to work out whether being in a committed relationship is going to work for them. There's like loads of variables that kind of would make it different from others, which I think that's the good point, is regardless of what we come up with as a tree, like if people are listening to this and then go, you know, asking the same question, I don't think there is an answer that would satisfy any viewer.
Yeah, just as a general rule of thumb. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you just have to like my advice would be to just know who you are as a person and what your main ideals are and what your priorities are. And if you decide that being in a relationship is a big priority, then yeah, like you can go as fast or as low as you want.
Yeah, I think go on, Alex.
No, I was just gonna say, I guess the older you are as well, you're more, I guess, wise to what you want and don't want from a relationship. So you figure out quite quickly the things you enjoy your partner doing or not. Whereas when you're young, you don't know to look out for the bad things you don't know you don't like yet. So you just kind of just throw everything in there.
Yeah. Oh God, the red flag.
I think also like the type of relationships have expanded, if you know what I mean. So like the way in which you can decide what type of relationship you can have has given more room. And I think the other thing, and not many, I'm just making a probably uneducated generalization here, but I don't think a lot of people are comfortable having the conversation of, okay, or especially when you're young, and I'm one of those people, or was one of those people. What type of relationship are we having? What do I want out of this? And how much do you want out of this, and what type?
Yeah,
Drawing that line early is like, I think you said it already, Jack, but it's like that's massive to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm looking for, just to let you know, this is my guess lines in the sand, if so to speak, and I just want to know where you're at and if you're interested, and if so, we can start off on the same foot.
Yeah, I think so. I was pondering about that question this question for a long time, because as soon as, well, for my relatively new experience, in kind of like relationships, you'll never really know when to ask those questions. Like, I don't know when to ask those questions. Like, when do you have those conversations?
I autistically do it instantly. I even do it before we're in. I would say I'm on the unhealthy other end of that. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, let's. What are you interested? Let's draw lines now. So I don't, because I tend to go, like, I tend to derive a lot of comfort and confidence in knowing.
Yeah.
And so
I
I
think
really, yeah.
That's quite a oh, I don't want to say it's normal, because it isn't normal. Like, it's not normal as in, like, it's not usual is what I want to say. Not, it's normal to be asking those questions, but it's not a usual thing. And where you have when you're dealing with another person and you don't know what their like comfort level is when it comes to these type of situations, maybe I'm just really paranoid and neurotic, right? Like, I always wonder whether those type of situations, those type of questions and conversations would shoo them away, because, I don't know, maybe there's a feeling of, I mean, I 100% agree that those conversations should happen right at the beginning, because it just sets you up for like expectations, like good expectations. But maybe I've just had really bad relationships in the past that these type of questions make me really wary, because basically what I'm anxious about is they would just get scared before they fully see who you are as a person, just by those questions
Alone. Yeah, they make a judgment on that.
I mean, obviously I know that, let's say I meet a person, and today, for the first time on our first date, would you ask them those questions?
I would. Not in that way.
Yeah.
Not in that way, but I think the topic would be like something along the lines of, if you don't mind me asking, what are you mostly looking for in a relationship? If you could click your fingers right now and have the most ideal one, what would that look like?
Yeah.
And then if somebody says, oh, I'm kind of not too sure, I'm thinking maybe, say you're interested in one type of relationship, whether that be like, say, polyamory, for example, and they're not, and they're like, no, I'm looking to settle down, I want one partner, that's it for me, then it's not for you. If you're and vice versa. If you're somebody who's looking for a strictly monogamous relationship, for example, like, I think instantly that sets the tone real quick, and it is daunting, but I think the trade-off is that you both can just breathe easy, that the sigh of relief that, oh, okay, we both saved a lot of time here, okay, this person's not looking for what I'm looking for. And I think there's also like a level of mutual respect in that somebody will just be upfront and be like, hey, look, I'm not trying to mess you about, and I'm going to trust that you're not trying to do the same. How do you feel about this?
Yeah,
that's how I would usually approach it. But even that is quite a rough conversation. Like, that's not, I wouldn't recommend that as I just know that, like, it's just a good thing. To be fair, I didn't do that in that as that type of upfront way.
Yeah.
But there's certainly more than one way by which you can try to figure that out, and I think being on the same page and communicating. Just it's like the most overpowered technique for making any type of relationship work. And I know everybody says it and it's like really bad, like communication, but really like legitimate, on the same page with communication in good faith, miles can pay off in miles.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. What about you, Alex? What's your experience with those type of conversations?
I think generally I have them about, not immediately,
Yeah.
but fairly close to the start. I don't think I'd wait like a month or anything like that. Maybe like a week or two in. Because
Yeah.
again, like it depends. Like I think it depends how you start in it. Like if it's more of like a casual type thing,
Yeah.
then you kind of already know it's a casual thing, you know. But if it's something that you're thinking, or you're both thinking, like, you know, this could actually be something, then I guess it's time to have the conversation about it, as Wylo was saying. But also going back to what you asked earlier about what the success rates of arranged marriage, I did a quick Google, and apparently, so the divorce rate, this is in the US, the divorce rate average is about 40-50%
Oof.
for normal marriages.
Oh, no marriage.
Yeah,
But arranged marriages, their divorce rate is only 4%.
Mate,
that's a lot.
maybe I should be getting an arranged marriage
Okay,
proposal.
who would you have? Say, so you can't decide who your partner is, right? Who would you have decide? Say you could have anyone. Say it was a nominal 2 people, and it doesn't even have to be someone you know. But let's say you're going to delegate 2 human beings. They could be anyone, to decide who your partner is going to be. Who are these human beings?
I was just gonna say that. Will, your decision is quite
Me?
on point. Yeah.
I think you'd
Ow.
you'd
Don't want me making that.
I think you'd say that. You would like mess with us to say that. Oh boy, you shouldn't have done that.
No, that's a bad idea. You don't
But
want
I
me.
think you have our best interests at heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would trust your judgment and would make it work. I think partly
boys.
because I want it to
What a
work.
mistake. God
I would
bless,
want
but
it
just
to
what a
work.
mistake.
Yeah. Like I might not be. I think it's true that in arranged marriages you don't really find them that massively attractive to them, and it just becomes like you develop feelings for them over time. I mean, thanks to Bridgerton and those type of trope kind of stories, that you don't end up liking them until you're well into the relation, like to the marriage. And partly because coming from a very tight knit community that is the Filipino culture, there is this niggling driving force behind what you do, where you don't want to look shameful to the community, and I probably wouldn't want to feel ashamed for myself that the marriage that you will have set up for me didn't work out, and I wouldn't want you to feel ashamed.
You better
that
not mess this
you
up.
were. Yeah, so that's it. That's probably gonna play on my mind to like literally force myself to love whoever you send me. just because I don't want to. I don't want to wrong you.
Oh gosh.
That's how much respect and love I have for you, Will.
Oh, Jack, mate. I even saying it, I would feel the same. Like if either of like, Yeah, definitely. If either of you boys pick someone, I'd be like, shit. Like this, am I now implicitly saying that they have poor judgment by?
Yeah, exactly.
Am I
And I
like
wouldn't want
spitting
to
in?
wrong you, Will.
Yeah, yeah. So
Ooh.
we know that this system only works because of the peer pressure and the
Yeah.
mutual love and respect we have for the people that have made the choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not so much for the partner, but for you,
Yeah,
Will.
I'd do it for you, Jack.
Arrange the marriage.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's put a lot of
For you,
actually,
pressure on
Will.
me. I better make a good choice now.
gone.
I was gonna say, how long would you take on the choice? Would it just be someone you saw and you went, "That's the person,"
Oh
or
shit.
would you spend considerable? Would you have a list and you'd narrow it down?
Oh my
Well,
god, yeah.
I have a experience with this with Will. Actually, Will does not quite an arranged marriage level, but Will have tried to set me up.
It bombed.
He
And
has.
he does put in a lot of thought into the rationales of why he would recommend somebody.
Okay. Well,
So
thanks, boys.
that's why I have an objective experience
I tried.
to vouch for Willow's judgment.
And I'm happy. I'm glad that despite the outcome, you still you still believe in me. God bless you.
Mate, you can lead the horse to water, yeah, but you
Yeah,
can't make
him
them drink.
That's
like,
true. Oh man, that's
okay?
true, man.
Yeah.
I would have
And
a
actually,
three-part
so on a
interview
serious note,
process.
yeah, on a serious note, I can't remember if I was inspired by Bridgeton. It must have been. But actually, love is a choice that you make. Like we don't
Mm.
see each other. Like we don't see another person on the street and go, you know what, I love them, like without reason. You might be infatuated with them. You might like the look of their face or the size of their member or like the wealth that they have. But actually, for me, love, despite everything else that's around you and all the like amalgamation of little negative niggly things about that person, you choose to love somebody,
Mm.
which I think for me is like a deeper version of love.
Mm.
Hmm.
I think for
I
me,
chose,
it's very
I
visceral.
chose to love that person.
I've never. I'm trying to just think of like, has there been? Does it like? My mind's pulling the image of like a switch, right? And you're just like, I've chosen. This is my person now.
Yeah.
And I've definitely. For me, it's more. I'll have an accumulation, so an accumulation of, just positive experiences with the person. Although that being said, though, this sounds very strong, but when I saw my partner now, I don't know what it was, but it was just like an intrinsic, like I just felt like very drawn to them, and maybe it was something physical, maybe it was something about the way that they talked or smiled, and maybe it's all of that and combined, but and probably is, but there wasn't a moment where I was like, okay, I'm gonna pick. I will do that in terms of what type of relationship I want. So to circle back into like, okay, I'm talking. I like this person. The zing has happened. I just want to like, for me it will be like, okay, I just want to spend time with this person. But I know that the way
But
that
you're
I
making
love
that choice.
Yeah, well,
to
so
want
that's
to spend time.
the way that I guess love is, I have a hyper focus. So as soon as I meet someone that I feel that way about, it's kind. I don't want to say I am making a choice, but in a sense, but it's not an active. It doesn't feel like an active one for me. I'm just like, I was just like, I need to see this person again. I need to interact, and then just over time, it's like, I'm not spending time with anyone else.
Same.
What more do I need? That's it. That's the box. Like I'm desperate to be with this person and just find out more, and they make me feel good, and then it evolves into, well, I mean, I guess the next stage of that is, they've then brought me such happiness just by being in my life, that I think where the love happens for me is that it's like, I'm so happy, I'm therefore so lucky, because it's fortunate that I've met someone to have this, because I'm not used to that, I want them to feel as happy as they've made me feel lucky. That's the love. That's literally like the part where you you say, okay, I like this person is. I want to do this. I want to reciprocate this for them. That.
Wait, what? Just go back.
So
What
the
you
three
said? You
phases.
said
The three phases would be like, first phase, you meet them, you like them, then you develop feelings for them, or the feelings for them have happened. The next step is you're together, you spent time with them. By the nature of you now wanting to be with them and have fallen in love with them, you want to spend time with them. And then
yeah.
once you've done that for a certain amount of time, the next stage for me, I don't know if this is applicable across the board, but for me the next stage is they've now made me feel so happy. I feel like I need to now reciprocate that, and I want to make them feel happy because they've made me feel so lucky because I'm happy. And I think when you get to the level of like that, for me, by that point, I mean it's a done deal. It's sold. I'm in. Like, so
Yeah,
when you say like a choice, like it's like I don't feel like I could have that with anyone. I've never had that level to that extent. So it's like,
I think
it's a surreal experience to sit there and be like, wow, like you've ever had somebody just sit and they just strike you and you're just like, just kind of like, it actually does just like hit you and you're like, fuck. Like, talk this, like, I'm actually blown away by this person. I don't know. That's kind of how I feel.
I think, Jack, not necessarily like flicking a switch, you choose to love someone. I think change that to you choose to start the process to fall in love with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Like
if you're with someone and so you allow it to start, not like instantly like that, but you make the choice to get to know them more and then eventually fall in love with them and stuff. Because I don't think it's a switch, how you said, because if they broke up with you, for example, you couldn't just be like, oh, flick the switch, not in love with you anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that would go away over time. But again, it's also, you flick the switch to start letting go. Not, you don't just instantly
you
one
allow
day.
yourself, you choose let go.
Mm.
It's not going to be like instantaneous, but you begin the process to let go. Like conversely on the other side of loving. Yes.
I would say that the only reason I bring up the reciprocity is because the feeling of not loving someone, or feeling and having that, letting that go, can be certainly expedited if they've done something wrong. So you no longer now feel the need to you're justified in letting go, because you no longer feel like you need to reciprocate that type of that quality emotion, that love.
I think that's where I come from, based on our conversations in the recent days. If you anticipate, I think maybe because I just have like a view of people that people are very imperfect, and whether they deliberately make mistakes because it's their nature to make mistakes, like actively choose to make the wrong decisions, or they don't know that those were the wrong decisions. But regardless, I just know, I just anticipate that they're going to do something wrong. And it's the choice of accepting that mistake and still continuing to love them is what I mean when I say that you make the choice to love them. Because I know it's a really strange concept, because growing up, obviously my parents were separated because my mum was working in London. My mum was working in London and we were stuck in the Philippines. So they're making the choice between them to love each other regardless of, infidelities and financial problems, financial mistakes, and that then led to me and my dad joining my mum here eventually, and that was between like 12 years, and there's definitely gajillions of mistakes made in those times. And I'm not saying that that should be the thing for love, because I think it got to a point where, without giving too much details, it got to a point where it was really toxic. And I think people should have, I mean, it's a different conversation, but people should have the confidence to call out something toxic and choose to whether leave it or not leave it. But I think for me, I probably won't be able to speak with you two today and be on this podcast today if it weren't for the choice that my parents made because they love each other. And I 100% don't think that what they had was something I would want for myself. I'm only coming at it from the choice that both of them made to love each other, like well beyond what community says they should do as a married couple, or whatever their friends would say, whatever their families would say. Like between themselves, I'm convinced that they chose to love each other, and I think that's where that's probably the only nugget of wisdom I can take from that. And I think, just for clarity, I didn't have my parents say this. I didn't have my parents say, no, we chose to love each other. Yeah. This is just me interpreting that situation. You know, I think that's I'm not a religious person or anything like that, but I've shot so many weddings as a photographer, not as a killer.
I like how you yeah.
And it does well up. I do well up when they make that cliche commitment to each other that they will love each other for good times and hard times.
I love weddings, man. I'd have one.
Yeah,
I'm big on weddings.
And I do. I mean, just thinking about it just makes me well up that hopefully I would make those affirmations and with somebody, because I would do my best to uphold that. And it sounds like martyrdom or being like a weak ass person if they make a mistake and you choose to still love them. But obviously that will be tested, hopefully, in the future, and I probably wouldn't be able to make, well, I will try to make a decision that would be right for me. But at this moment, hypothetically, I wouldn't be able to say, if you ask me a question of, what if he kills Basil? Or what if he keeps, what if he doesn't like your cooking, or things like that? Would you still love them? You know? Yeah. But I think in a abstract kind of way, in a most idealistic notion of love, is you choose to love them, or I would choose to love them. And then
beautiful stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Just thinking, choose to. I think choose to love them. Yeah. I'm just thinking, because it feels, I don't know, maybe I'm just different, but it just feels very, it just happens, and then you're like, okay. But I think I'm a bit of like a, what is it, hopeless romantic in that way, I guess, maybe that's just says more about me than it's.
I think that's the two different versions, like the two flavors of hopeless romantics. Because like you get into the zone, you allow the zone to guide you, and there's also the I don't want to be quoted in the future. Right. because you choose to love somebody that you forgo their mistakes.
I think it depends on how long you've been together as well. The longer you've been together, the more you're willing to accept a certain mistake or something.
Yeah, I'm
experience
not
as well.
sure.
Like, how long were you,
Depends,
like,
though.
for example, in the case of your parents, like, obviously, your mum came over here to work,
Yeah.
but she already had you and your dad. So it kind of became more of a,
Commitment.
not just for them, but they were
Yeah.
also, like, doing it for you, and they wanted to keep the family together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not only for themselves, but for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I know of other Filipinos who were in the same situation, um, but they ended up separating.
Yeah.
So what happened was my parents were working in Saudi Arabia as domestic helpers, for some really rich Arab, and then my mum, as a housekeeper, would go to London with the employer on some like summer trips or something like that, occasionally to London because the family was that rich. And then she decided that life in London was a lot more, it's a lot better than life in Saudi Arabia. Hang on,
Bless
I
you,
just
mate.
needed to sneeze.
Bless you.
And so she decided to plan her escape to London. At the time, she was pregnant for me, so she delivered me in the Philippines. She delivered. She gave birth to me in the Philippines. Just like, oh, here's a box.
Yeah.
She gave birth to me in the Philippines. Then she went back pretty much 2 months. I don't remember exact time when she had time to recuperate, but she says it wasn't that long. So she went back to work pretty much straight away. And as soon as I was born, my dad left the family to be with me. And then the next opportunity that my mum had, she just escaped in London. So that's where I came. Um, that's where our family arrangements became. But it becomes a like I just to kind of like expand on how long do you have to be to be making these choice of loving somebody. I think they don't need to be like mind-blowing acts of love, but it could be really simple things like I choose to text you good night before I go to sleep,
Yeah.
because some relationships don't even say good night to each other.
Right.
Like, oh, I choose to pay for cinema today, and then I would just allow them to pay for dinner. So those type of like little decisions, little choices that you have, that you make because you want to show affection other than sex.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think from
Yeah.
I learned that being in a healthy relationship shines a light on the stuff that you bring, the baggage that you bring to a relationship. And so just as like the reason why I bring that up is because I think I can be very I would describe myself as overwhelming, I think, or I'm at least self-conscious of the fact that I'm a bit too much.
Okay.
And
You and me both, buddy.
yeah, just way too much. Like I love all that stuff. Like I'll message nonstop. I know, sound crazy. I message nonstop. I just any excuse, because the way that I see it, same as before, is just that I'm in a selfish way very greedy for this person's time because I like being with them.
Yeah.
And so if I had it my way, this is the unhealthy thing I noticed. The unhealthy thing I noticed is if not checked, because obviously too much of anything's bad. If unchecked, I would just happily consume all of the other person's time. And like almost like not let them. Or I guess the bad end product would be that they're not able to, independently be themselves or get to do bits separate from me. But I may be worried that I do that, but I never realized that about myself until I was in a healthy relationship where like, I had to check myself. Luckily, I checked myself before I was doing it, but I noticed I did it. I was like, oh, that's a lot. I looked back, I was like, oh, that's a lot of messages. And I was like, I get like self-conscious about it. I don't know. Is there anything that you guys had perhaps noticed, like when you bring what you bring to the table in, like, let's say, a relationship, not in terms of baggage, let's say, but just something that maybe you caught yourself. It may not have even like personified itself in the relationship, but just something that you had to like check yourself in. And how did you go about that? Because I think people hearing it could maybe learn the process of, okay, so what's going on here? What am I doing? How am I feeling? And then how am I going to process that? For me, it was talking. I talked it out. I just said, hey, I've noticed that I've messaged you a lot. This is quite. I think this is quite a lot. How do you feel about that? And luckily, there was enough communication and trust that we actually had a really lovely conversation about that. But what do you think? Like, is there any other techniques or methods, or like, what's your guys' experience with that type of bringing baggage, or the way you approach relationships, like dealing with the negative that you bring, let's say, if we're going to put a topic note on that?
Alex?
I was coughing.
Oh, shall I start?
I can go. I think it's definitely a good thing if you're like aware of what you're doing, because then you can catch yourself doing it, like you did, and then you decided to have a conversation about it and things like that. That's like a really key thing, like understanding how to not do it in the future, I guess. What is the thing that everyone kind of has to gripe with a little bit, isn't it? Well, the key thing of jealousy. Where I guess there are like different levels of it. You could either be on the really extreme end and like your partner talking to someone of the opposite sex and you instantly go nuts or something like that. Like, obviously that's a bit
Would you say you're a jealous guy?
It's more than a bit, but more too much. I think I guess on the mid range.
I'm
jealousy.
I'm an extremely jealous person.
I mean, it could make me think on the subject, but then I think I'm very good at catching myself out and be like, nah, like, I trust the person. I've got to stick with that. But every now and then, I don't know, you could have something that gets into your mind like Inception, and it just starts going fucking rampant.
Yeah, I can totally relate with that. Once it goes. And I think that's probably a normal response. I would say people who don't feel jealous is probably very abnormal. Or, you see, I've met so many random people, and I've been really interested in how their relationships work. But there's open relationships, people who are in like very active relationship where the other person doesn't really seem to mind or seem to get jealous, and I think it works for them, I guess, and that helps with the quote unquote unnecessary baggage of like negative emotions associated with jealousy. Like, if they can just have an agreement to say, yeah, you can do what you want, and I'm cool with it. What do you think about that?
Well, so for me, the quality, well, let's say the value and the quality of a relationship in terms of what I would derive is the exclusivity, the element of monogamy. So what separates, you're saying earlier, like, I think on the same level of that is the choice of loving someone or being vulnerable enough to let yourself love someone and engaging with that fully. That's a choice. And the fact that you're not loving multiple people in that same way instantaneously, in my mind, makes that there's no it's priceless. It's literally priceless. It's unique. No one else will ever have it. It's the same principle as like intimacy as well. It's like I'm committing, and also I don't want to be with anyone else. Meaning that you're the person, you're my person, and there's something powerful, I think, and for me just feels right to say to someone. I think at the moment, again, this probably says more about me because I'm very big on like drawing very clear lines so everyone knows where they stand. I've made like really like, you know, silly statements about this in the past, but a big one is friendships. I don't, well, of course you gents know this, I don't sleep with my friends. I know. So I don't sleep with my friends. It's just a.
Yes.
But what
That's
would?
not what I remember.
Oh, okay. Well, it was one time. Okay,
There goes my one and only hope.
Guys, just don't expose me like this, okay? But that's how I draw the line. Is like, so I love you boys. It's obviously platonic. But what would be the if let's say I was just expressing that physically with everyone and anyone,
it cheapens
in my
other relationships, no?
Well, in my mind, what's the need? I can just, you know, and it's this. I also don't. I guess it's again, yeah, it is a me thing. But I wouldn't want it with anyone else. So I just have one person I feel the strong. It's like I feel the strongest about you. And I want to have a relationship with you and only you, and I'll only express that through our like relationship together.
Yeah,
is the statement.
I do find it quite I lost my train of thought. Alex, make a comment, and I was trying to think of what I was going to say.
Is that a 9 or a 6 upside down on your cupboard, Will? Or your drawers, I should say.
It's where there's a line.
There's a line?
Yeah, there's a line where the line denotes the bottom. So the top one is a 6 and the bottom one's a 9.
Oh, okay.
Why are you guessing if that's 69 or like if you put them
No,
together?
it's just,
or is
it looks like 2 9s. I didn't realize there was a line on the bottom.
No, it lights up too.
That's it.
There we go.
I remember what I was gonna say now. I just remembered it. Oh, that's it. So, in more. I don't want to call this progressive because I don't think it is progressive. Is it progressive? And you decide. In these type of relationships where I find it really strange and cringe to some extent, where some people's relationships, they're so, I think for the sake of being different, they don't subscribe to the monogamous relationship. Have you had those type of people? Have you heard of those type of people where whether it's a heterosexual couple or a homosexual couple or, you know, a non-binary couple, they would say, oh, that's so, like, being in a monogamous relationship is so, like, old school, and I don't really want to label our relationship like that because, you know, we don't want to conform. I think
we don't like labels.
Yeah, there's this label that is quite prevalent in the homo world, in the homosexual world, where they say, oh, they're so heteronormative. Like this notion of 2.5 family living in the suburbs with their mini SUV cars and middle class working lives, they would call that as like so heteronormative. And
so they're the hippies of the relationship world.
Yeah, and then they would actively do their hardest to not look like them. And I find it really strange because obviously I understand my biases and my upbringing, and I have to say that that's what kind of informed my my view of relationships, but equally, I find it really strange where people would just like not like it just because it's
Yeah.
so normal.
Almost
Like,
like
what's wrong?
principally not like it. There's not like a
Mm.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That
it's
is
not like
strange
they.
to me.
And I'm not convinced that people who would say, "Oh, but look, you can have open relationships where you your sex life would be so much more interesting because you're not just playing with the same organ
Mm.
for the rest of your life. I mean, you can have this relationship with this person this one night, and then there's another person, and then both of them at the same time at one night. I kind of, okay, that sounds exciting, and I'm sure that works well for these people, but I find it so um sad that people would just say no to the other forms of more normal relationships. I'm like, not normal, like more usual
Yeah.
type of relationship.
Well, like principally, and unfortunately, ironically for them, they're in a way limiting themselves. So whereas the talking point is, oh, I have so much variety,
Yeah.
Mm.
but realistically, all they've done is just rebox themselves, so they can
And
only as like now they can only do that. They can't have either or. They might meet someone that, and it that type of relationship. And this is, I mean, yeah, this is a pretty bad judgment I'm gonna make, but I'm gonna make it anyway. It sounds very surface level. I don't think that there's many authentic connections. That's probably my bias from a more like traditional background, I guess. But I've never met or seen someone like happy that's doing that.
Mm.
Rare.
which one?
Like a polyamorous relationship.
Ah,
Or an open one, as you described.
Yeah,
yeah.
I never met like someone who's like I've met people who are. I would describe it as maybe satisfied, but not
Okay.
happy.
Yeah.
Like they're always looking for they're still looking.
Mm.
They're still looking. It's whether it's maybe they need that, but for me it just didn't. It and of course the only thing I can do is try and it just only says anything about me, not them. But
Yeah.
when I put myself in their shoes, all it just sounds it's just stress. That just sounds stressful. That just sounds like a mess and stress. So
I think I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy for the people who get to make it work. Um, and so this so going back to, you know, the bit where you have those conversations at the beginning, right?
mm,
Like those serious conversations at the beginning. And my reservations was how when they give you a response, how much confidence do you have that they're saying that because it's their actual thoughts, like at that moment, or how much of what they end up saying they're saying only because that's what they think you want to hear.
Mm.
Like, I mean, you already both know that I got stung in quite recently, and where this person did say things that they probably thought I wanted to hear, but in fact they couldn't commit to it.
mm,
So I think there was elements of talking about those serious stuff at the beginning, but they probably either weren't in the right frame of mind to answer it truthfully. So in this case, when it comes kind of going back again, circling back to the idea of polyamory, we might encounter people who say, oh yeah, like polyamorous relationships like really work, a non-monogamous relationship really work for me when we're talking about it.
yeah.
But deep down, behind closed doors, how I don't know how satisfied they are with their current setup.
Yeah.
I guess there's a risk with any relationship
Yeah.
or anyone that you want to be with. You don't know if they're lying or not. But I guess it's something you kind of have to try and decipher in the long run.
Yeah.
I think the best thing you do is you take the leap of faith, which is the vulnerable aspect of giving a relationship a fair shot, any type.
Yeah.
And I just think the big thing, like the one foundational pillar of anything, I guess, has to be trust, doesn't it? Because if someone violates that, I mean, so from on the flip side, I didn't have, so I had somebody who was, I would say, yeah, was unfaithful at times, and the way that I'd been the person on the flip side. I'd been the person who had a boundary, and then they were such a force, like an emotional force, that I would capitulate, and I wouldn't respect my own boundary, which is what I did wrong. That's what I contributed negatively to the situation. And it the biggest thing you have to do is be truthful to how you're feeling in that moment. And once the trust is done, and you feel like the trust is done, for me, there was I tried to make it, work, but you just feel like you're always stepping on eggshells, like everything, even things that aren't even related to that one thing. You're just like, oh, can I really believe that this is what's happening or being told to me, or is this person just bulldozering me again, and am I just making up for the ground lost? Was my issue before. I think if you feel that way, as a general prescription to anybody who's listening, that's usually a very big sign that you maybe need to reevaluate what's happening. But that it's only a moment that you'll realize if you're lucky.
They're trying to warp. They're trying to warp your perception of what's happening. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm trying to say is sometimes when you meet somebody who's so emotionally certain and strong, if you yourself are not confident enough or have the ego strength to be able to say, no, actually this is where my line in the sand is, you will get completely steamrolled. Because the only thing we can control in relationship is what we bring to it.
Yeah.
And so I guess my message, if you could condense it. Sorry?
What do you mean by steamroll? Steamroll
as in just completely flatten you. Like you just won't, they'll just roll over you. So you say, no, I don't actually feel too comfortable about this, and then they will say, essentially, my needs over supersede yours. If you say I have a boundary, for example, they may say, well, my boundary is now overlapping yours.
Yeah.
And so and then the term compromise starts getting thrown out. And then you think to yourself, okay, if I'm a good partner, then I will compromise at least 50%, and they will compromise at least 50%. But when somebody has that strong a conviction, they just move 100%. And the only person moving backwards is you. Times that by 4 years of a relationship, you look back and you realize that you was miles away from where your boundary was. Because each time they move you back, that becomes your new normal. Each time. So you think it's
like the frog sitting in boiling water. You'll jump out if it's boiling straight away, but if you slowly cook it.
Yeah, I heard about that saying actually the other day. I can't remember who I was saying it to. But they get so comfortable in the little
increments of
that they don't realize that it's cooking them to death. But actually, paradoxically, isn't that what our first question of today's podcast was about? Like, I'm assuming that because you're in a relationship with them, you would consider them a friend too, right? A version of a friend, like a boyfriend/girlfriend, right? And how much influence will you allow your friend to change you?
Yeah.
We're reversing it now.
Mind explosion. I would say the one goal should be that you should be independent of one another, but when you come together, you're both stronger for it. That's usually the best telltale. So if you
Yeah.
feel like this other person is just mandating what you're going to do next and you don't really get much of an input, that's when it's turned sour for sure. The best part is like at the end, the best feeling is when you're going about your day, you're going to do something that you're nervous about, and then you think to yourself, oh, you know what, it doesn't matter because I have this person. If you have that, you're laughing all your way to the bank. Whether that's friends or relationships. But if you get that in a relationship, slap a ring on it.
Hey, you're sorted.
You're sorted.
For life.
You're sorted.
See it, say it.
Sorted. How are we for time? We're at the 11 past 11. You're...
Ooh, 11:11. Make a wish.
On that note.
Alright. I think I'm gonna
No
close
bueno,
out.
man.
I'm gonna close out. Thank you, boys.
Yeah.
Bye, man.
Hopefully this was amazing. Any excuse to chat
It's
to you.
been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, pleasure, man. Is there anything you guys want to say? I just want to say thanks for your time and love you, boys.
No, thank you for sharing your insights with us. Is there any other places where they can?
Did you
see
say
you on
insights or insides?
Oh, insides. Insights
Yeah, you
and
can,
side
I'll
places.
show you my insights if you want.
So, I don't know if these are gonna make the cut.
No, wait, sorry. Boundaries with my friends. See what I mean? This is what I'm saying. That's emotional steamrolling.
The other day, I went to like a little gathering, and a topic of kangaroos came up.
Why kangaroos?
It's related to the insides part. That
Oh, okay.
Alex said. So, oh shit. We were talking about. I wonder what somebody wondered what the pouch of a kangaroo looks like.
Oh, I've seen it. It's disgusting.
And I said, it just reminded me because Alex said insides. I said that the best way that I think about it is it's basically like a reverse ball sack.
Oh, that's what you was gonna say. Okay, interesting. That's not what I thought you was gonna go with that. I thought you was gonna liken it to like foreskin or something.
Well, that
Yeah.
reverse.
That's what I thought you was gonna say. I thought you was gonna say like.
Oh, good.
You ever looked
on
inside
that
your
note-
foreskin? That's what I thought you was gonna say, or something like that.
Have you ever unwrapped?
Unwrapped and just
And it goes inside.
like a fucking Ferrero Rocher.
So actually, on that note, we finish our podcast.
Yeah, it's best we stop that there. I think.
Let's see
Is
how
it
John
YouTube,
edits
Spotify,
this.
all that?
Yeah.
That's it. Definitely gonna have a PG rating.
Oh,
not
for sure.
Kids.
Not for kids. Not
Okay.
for kids. All right.
Just in case you're wondering, kangaroos are basically again reverse ball sacks.
Oh, but on your last note,
Mm.
on a last little note before we go, if you've ever donated blood, your blood could be in someone's erection at any point.
I saw that meme today.
You
Okay,
sent
I'm
it.
stop recording this. This has gone too far. All right, bye.